Most people think the art of speaking is about words, about choosing the perfect phrase, delivering it with flawless timing, impressing everyone in the room. But if you've ever had a conversation that made you feel alive, you know, it's something deeper. It's not about dazzling, it's about connecting. It's not about sounding smart. It's about making another human being feel seen, heard, and understood. In a world drowning in noise, the true masters of dialogue are not the ones who shout the loudest, but the ones who listen with their whole soul, the ones who bring presence into the conversation like a breath of fresh air. They are the ones who don't just speak to be heard, they speak to touch, and that changes everything. Today, we're diving into the hidden secrets that separate those who merely talk from those who create unforgettable conversations. If you've ever wanted to speak in a way that draws people in effortlessly, to talk to anyone, anywhere, and leave them feeling better for having met you, stay with me, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you communicate forever. 1. Speak to connect, not to perform. Somewhere along the way, many of us learned that speaking is about performance, about putting on a version of ourselves that is sharper, wittier, more polished than who we really are. We imagine that the more impressive we sound, the more approval we'll win. And yet, if you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling hollow, unseen, or disconnected, you know how wrong that idea is. The truth is, when we focus on impressing others, we stop connecting with them. We build a wall of words, perfectly constructed, but cold. Our energy turns inward, obsessed with how we're being perceived, and the other person, sensing that subtle shift, pulls away. It's not because they dislike us, it's because we aren't truly offering ourselves. We're offering a version, a performance, and people don't connect with performances. They connect with presence. If you watch someone who is deeply engaging, someone you could listen to for hours, it's rarely because they're performing for you. It's because they're with you. Their words are not acts of self-advertisement. They are invitations. Their attention is not locked inside their own head, worried about sounding smart. It's flowing outward, noticing you, responding to you, adapting to the living moment between you. It's the simplest, most overlooked truth about communication. People don't want perfection from you. They want realness. They want to feel you're not hiding behind carefully curated sentences. They want to sense the raw, unfiltered person beneath the layers of polish. That doesn't mean being reckless or thoughtless in your speech. It means daring to show your humanity, the slight stumbles, the genuine laughter, the thoughtful pauses. It means letting go of the exhausting need to constantly prove your worth, and realizing your worth was never in question to begin with. When you speak to connect rather than perform, something extraordinary happens. You listen more deeply. You pick up on the emotional currents underneath the surface. You become sensitive to what's unsaid, to what's felt rather than spoken. You respond not only with your words, but with your entire presence. And that's what people crave, especially in a world that increasingly feels loud, distracted, and disconnected. Ask yourself, next time you enter a conversation, am I here to be admired, or am I here to build a bridge? That simple shift in intention changes everything, from the tone of your voice to the depth of your impact. Real conversation is a dance, not a solo performance. It's not about dominating the stage. It's about meeting another human being in the open, messy, beautiful territory of shared understanding. It's about saying, without words, I'm not here to win. I'm here with you. Mastering this, speaking to connect, not to perform, is the foundation of every great dialogue you will ever have. It's where the art of communication begins, not with dazzling speeches, not with perfectly crafted answers, but with presence, with courage, with heart. Because at the end of the day, nobody remembers the most polished talker in the room. They remember the one who made them feel less alone. 2. Give people a feeling, not just information. It's easy to assume that communication is about transferring knowledge, about sharing facts, offering advice, giving information neatly packaged in well-organized sentences. But if that were true, then lectures would move hearts, statistics would inspire revolutions, and spreadsheets would bring people to tears. They don't. Because human beings are not information processing machines. We are emotional creatures, wired to feel before we think, to connect through energy before we connect through logic. If you want to speak in a way that truly touches people, you have to understand something essential. Facts fill the mind, but feelings fill the soul. Information can impress, but emotion transforms. You could tell someone the exact steps to live a better life, you could map it out perfectly, but unless you ignite something inside them, unless you reach past the walls of logic into the open fields of feeling, your words will vanish into the noise, forgotten before they even land. Think about the moments that stayed with you, not just mentally, but viscerally. Was it a perfect explanation that etched itself into your memory? Or was it the way someone's voice cracked with emotion when they spoke about something they loved? Was it the trembling hope in their words, the raw passion in their stories, the quiet strength in their vulnerability? Those are the moments we remember. Those are the moments that shape us. So when you speak, aim not just for clarity of thought, but for clarity of energy. Let your words carry something alive. Let them hum with truth, with conviction, with whatever real thing it is you want to offer. If you're excited about what you're saying, let that excitement ripple through your voice. If you care deeply about what you're sharing, don't hide it. Let it fill the space between you and the person listening. Emotion is not a weakness in communication, it's the bridge. This doesn't mean being dramatic or manipulative. It doesn't mean manufacturing feelings. It means allowing your real emotions to color your words naturally, trusting that what is genuine will resonate more deeply than anything polished or rehearsed. You could give someone 100 reasons to change their life, or you could give them one feeling that makes them believe they can. You could drown them in details about why an idea matters, or you could make them feel the power of that idea in their bones. The difference is subtle but profound. One stays in the intellect, the other roots itself in the heart, and from there grows into action. Because long after people forget what you said, they will remember how they felt around you. They'll remember the fire you sparked, the courage you whispered into existence, the moment you reminded them, even if only for a second, of something bigger, something truer, something beautiful inside themselves. Speak to inform, yes, but speak even more to ignite. Speak not just to be understood, but to be felt. In that space beyond words, that's where real communication, real transformation begins. 3. Ask deep questions that awaken others. Every conversation holds a secret doorway, a chance to go beyond the surface, to step into the raw, unedited truth of another human being. But most of the time, we walk right past it. We stay on the surface, skating over polite questions and safe answers. How's work? How was your weekend? How's the weather over there? And while there's nothing wrong with small talk, if that's all we ever touch, we miss the deeper pulse of connection that lives just beneath it. The truth is, the quality of a conversation often depends on the quality of the questions we dare to ask. Shallow questions invite shallow answers. Deep questions invite people to open, not just their mouths, but their hearts. They offer a hand into the unspoken, the unexplored, the parts of ourselves we don't often get to share. When you ask someone, "What's lighting you up lately?" you're not just asking about their schedule, you're asking about their soul. When you ask, "What's been on your mind a lot these days?" you're not just making conversation, you're offering them a rare opportunity to be seen without armor. And it's not just the words of the question that matter, it's the energy behind them. It's whether you're asking from a place of genuine curiosity or just filling silence. People can feel the difference. They can feel when you're asking because you truly care about the answer, not because you're trying to be interesting or because you're following a script, but because you're sincerely fascinated by who they are. The magic happens when you listen not just for answers, but for the emotions behind them. When you pick up on the subtle shifts, the flicker of excitement, the shadow of sadness, the quiet dreams they're still nursing. When you lean in, not to judge or fix or advise, but simply to understand. Deep questions don't have to be complicated. Sometimes the simplest ones cut the deepest. What's been bringing you peace lately? What's something you wish more people understood about you? If you could wake up tomorrow with one fear completely gone, what would it be? Questions like these don't just make conversation more interesting, they make it transformational. They remind people that they are more than their routines, more than their job titles, more than their carefully rehearsed answers. They create a space where something real can emerge, a memory, a hope, a buried truth waiting for air. And something beautiful happens when you consistently ask deeper questions. People begin to associate you with depth itself. They feel different around you, more alive, more thoughtful, more seen, not because you dazzled them with your knowledge, but because you invited them to bring forth a part of themselves that usually stays hidden. That's the secret to becoming magnetic in conversation. Not by trying to be interesting, but by being interested, by making others feel like the unexplored chapters of their story are not only welcome, but celebrated. Because in the end, what most people are truly longing for isn't just to be heard, it's to be awakened. And sometimes all it takes is one well-placed question, offered with genuine wonder, to light that spark. 4. Be present, not distracted. There's an invisible language we all speak, even before a single word is said. It's the language of presence or absence. Every time we enter a conversation, whether we realize it or not, we are communicating something with our attention. Are we here, or are we somewhere else? Are we fully with the person in front of us? Or are we caught in the endless swirl of thoughts, distractions, and invisible conversations inside our own mind? Presence is powerful because it is so rare. In a world flooded with screens, alerts, and noise, to offer someone your full, undivided attention is an extraordinary gift, and people can feel it immediately. It's not something you announce. It's something you embody. It's the way your eyes settle and don't dart away. It's the stillness in your body as you listen. It's the way your energy doesn't pull away from the moment, but sinks deeper into it. The greatest conversations aren't built on cleverness, they are built on attention. Because when you are truly present, you become a mirror. You reflect the value of the person sitting across from you. You say to them, without a single word, "You matter." Right now, nothing is more important than this moment we are sharing. And when someone feels that from you, they soften, they open, they begin to offer the parts of themselves they usually keep hidden from a world too busy to notice. But when we are distracted, when our eyes wander, when we check our phones, when our mind drifts, The effect is just as powerful, but in the opposite direction. We send a different message. You're not enough to hold my attention. It's often not intentional, but the impact is real. People feel the withdrawal, even if they can't articulate it. They sense the absence, and they retreat too, into safer, shallower versions of themselves. Presence isn't about being perfect. Your mind will wander, you'll get distracted. That's human. Presence is about noticing when it happens and gently returning, over and over. It's about making the decision, in every moment, to stay, to come back, to prioritize connection over comfort, curiosity over restlessness. You don't need to say the perfect thing to make a conversation meaningful. You don't need a brilliant response lined up in your head. Most of the time, what people crave isn't your cleverness, it's your attention, your realness, your willingness to sit with them without rushing to the next thought or the next task. Presence is what transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. It's what turns small talk into soul talk. It's what allows two human beings, in the midst of all the chaos and noise, to find something sacred between them. A shared space of understanding, respect, and life. So next time you sit across from someone, catch yourself. Notice, am I here or am I somewhere else? And if you're not fully here, bring yourself back, not harshly, but lovingly. Because this moment, fleeting and fragile as it is, will never come again. And what you offer it, your full heart, your undivided attention, might just be the very thing someone else was quietly, desperately hoping to find. 5. Tell real stories, even the imperfect ones. There's something about a real story, not a rehearsed, polished speech, but a messy, vivid, human story that cuts through the noise and touches people in ways that facts and arguments never could. We live in a world obsessed with appearances, with carefully curated versions of ourselves that highlight only the victories, the polished moments, the successes neatly tied up in perfect bows. But here's the deeper truth. It's not our perfection that draws people in. It's our humanity. When you tell a story, you're not just sharing an event. You're inviting someone into your world. You're saying, here's where I stumbled. Here's where I doubted myself. Here's where I almost gave up. And here's what I found on the other side. And when you do that with honesty, without trying to make yourself look bigger or smaller than you are, something magical happens. The walls come down. The connection deepens. People stop listening with their heads and start listening with their hearts. We're not drawn to stories because they are perfect. We're drawn to them because they remind us we're not alone. They remind us that struggling is part of the human experience, that vulnerability is not weakness, but a different kind of strength. That even in our moments of failure, even in our confusion and fear, there is meaning and beauty to be found. You don't need to have climbed Everest to have a story worth telling. You don't need to have some grand, epic adventure tucked away. Some of the most powerful stories come from the simplest moments. The day you almost gave up on a dream, but didn't. The conversation that changed the way you saw yourself. The quiet realization that you were stronger than you thought. What matters isn't the scale of the story. It's the sincerity behind it. It's the willingness to show your cracks, your doubts, your real, breathing self. Because when you do, you're not just telling a story, you're creating a mirror. And in that mirror, others can see parts of themselves they may have forgotten or buried or been too afraid to face. There's a particular kind of courage that comes with telling imperfect stories. It's the courage to say, I don't have it all figured out. I'm still learning. I'm still becoming. And ironically, it's that honesty that makes people trust you, relate to you, remember you. It's what makes your words linger long after the conversation ends. We don't connect through impressiveness. We connect through authenticity, through the trembling voice that tells the truth anyway, through the unpolished moment where you laugh at yourself, or admit you didn't know what to do, or share how scared you were before you found your footing. And maybe that's the real art of storytelling. Not crafting the perfect narrative, but daring to bring forth something real. To open a door into your lived experience and trust that what's most human in you will resonate with what's most human in them. Because at the end of the day, people don't need another hero to admire from a distance. They need a fellow traveler, someone who reminds them that their messy, beautiful, unfinished story is worth telling too. 6. Read the room before you speak. There's a rhythm to every room you walk into, an invisible current that moves beneath the surface. Sometimes it hums with excitement, sometimes it buzzes with tension, sometimes it drifts in a slow, quiet pull, heavy with things unspoken. And if you want your words to truly land, to truly matter, you have to feel that rhythm before you add your voice to it. Speaking without reading the room is like trying to dance without hearing the music. You might be moving, but you're not moving with anything. You're out of sync, and people feel it, instantly. It's the awkward joke that falls flat, the loud enthusiasm that crashes into a solemn silence, the rushed advice that misses the wound it was meant to heal. When we ignore the energy around us, we don't just miss opportunities for connection. We risk creating more distance, more dissonance. But when you pay attention, when you slow down enough to really sense where people are, something shifts. You stop thinking of conversation as a performance to deliver and start seeing it as a living, breathing exchange. You notice the way someone's eyes flicker when a topic touches a nerve. You catch the way a room leans forward when something resonates. You feel when people are hungry for laughter and when they're craving stillness. And you respond, not by forcing your agenda, but by meeting them where they are. This isn't about being fake or manipulative. It's about respect. It's about honoring the sacred unspoken agreement of human connection. I see you. I feel you. I am willing to adjust, to adapt, to dance with the energy that is already alive here. Sometimes reading the room means holding back a story you were excited to tell because you realize the mood is heavier than you expected. Sometimes it means turning a serious conversation into a lighter one because you sense that what people need most is not another weight to carry, but a reason to smile. Sometimes it means staying silent a little longer, letting the moment breathe, allowing others to fill the space with what's really on their hearts. Presence is your greatest tool here, not the presence that demands attention, but the presence that gives it, the kind that watches, listens, and feels before it speaks. The kind that realizes that sometimes the greatest impact you can have isn't in what you say. It's in when and how you choose to say it. Reading the room requires humility. It requires letting go of the need to be the center of it all. It asks you to trust that connection isn't something you can force. It's something you can only invite. And the invitation begins by tuning in before you speak. Because when you honor the energy of a room, people feel it. They may not be able to explain why, but they will feel more comfortable around you, more willing to open, more ready to receive what you have to offer. Your words will not land like stones dropped into a pond. They will ripple outward, touching the moment naturally, effortlessly, like a song joining the music already playing. And that is the art of truly impactful speaking, not shouting over the world, but stepping into its flow and adding your voice in a way that makes the whole thing just a little more alive. 7. Don't be a mirror, be a window. It's tempting in conversation to mirror, to reflect back what people say, to nod and agree, to stay safely within the lines they draw. It feels polite, even supportive. After all, everyone likes to feel validated. But if all you ever do is mirror, if you only ever reflect what's already there, you miss a deeper opportunity, the chance to be a window. A way for people to see not just their own reflection, but a new horizon they hadn't considered before. Mirrors are safe, they're predictable, but windows are transformative. They offer perspective. They let in light. They invite people to step beyond their current view and glimpse something more, something different, something possible. When you engage with someone, you have a choice. You can reinforce their current world, or you can gently, respectfully open a doorway into a larger one, not by lecturing, not by correcting, but by offering, by sharing an insight, a story, a question that invites them to stretch beyond where they are. It's not about making them wrong, it's about giving them a glimpse of something richer, something they might not have seen yet. Being a window requires presence and courage. It requires you to be grounded enough in yourself that you're not just seeking agreement or approval. It means you're willing to share a truth, even if it slightly disrupts the familiar rhythm of the conversation. You're willing to say, "Have you ever looked at it this way?" Or, "I wonder what would happen if you tried seeing it from a different angle." Not to impose, not to dominate, but to offer. And when you do it with respect, with real care for the person in front of you, it doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like an awakening, like someone gently pulling back a curtain you didn't know was closed, like a breeze stirring the air in a room that had grown too still. Think about the conversations that changed you. Were they the ones where someone simply agreed with everything you said? Or were they the ones where someone, with kindness and strength, opened a door you hadn't seen before? The moments where you thought, "I never considered that, but now I can't unsee it." Those are the conversations that leave a lasting imprint. Those are the conversations that expand our lives. Of course, not every moment calls for this. Sometimes people just need to be heard, to be comforted, to feel safe. And in those moments, mirroring can be exactly the right thing. But when the moment calls for it, when you sense that a little light, a little air, a little newness could be a gift, dare to be the window. Dare to offer something more than reflection. Dare to offer revelation. Because the greatest conversations aren't just echoes of what we already know. They are invitations into who we might yet become. 8. Know when to end the sentence. There's a rhythm to speaking that few people ever master. A subtle art that isn't just about the words you choose, but about knowing when to stop. Because as powerful as words can be, silence, the space between, carries its own quiet, undeniable strength. Too often we speak past the moment. We rush to fill every pause, every silence, every flicker of uncertainty. We keep explaining, keep adding, keep layering words upon words, as if afraid that if we stop, we'll lose the listener's attention. But the paradox is this: the more you overtalk, the more invisible you become. The longer you stretch a thought, the more its impact fades into background noise. True connection isn't built on endless words. It's built on words that know when to bow out and let the silence finish what they started. Think of the conversations that gripped you, that stayed with you long after they ended. Were they cluttered with endless elaborations? Or were they marked by moments where someone said something simple, clear, powerful, and then stopped? That pause after a truth lands is not emptiness. It's resonance. It's the space where the words sink in, where they take root, where they begin to transform into something felt rather than just heard. Knowing when to end a sentence isn't about cutting yourself short or censoring your thoughts. It's about tuning into the energy of the moment, feeling when an idea has landed, sensing when the listener has leaned in, absorbed what you offered, and doesn't need more. It's about trusting that your words are enough without dressing them up in endless repetitions. It's about understanding that the greatest impact often comes not from saying more, but from saying just enough, and then letting the silence breathe life into the meaning. There's a quiet confidence in brevity, in saying exactly what needs to be said, no more, no less. It shows that you respect your own words enough not to dilute them. It shows that you respect your listener's mind and heart, enough to give them the dignity of space to reflect, to feel, to process. Rambling, on the other hand, is often a symptom of insecurity, a fear that we haven't been clear enough, impressive enough, convincing enough, so we pile on more words, hoping to close the gap. But the truth is, every unnecessary word chips away at the power of what you're really trying to say. The moment you start explaining something that already speaks for itself, you diminish its weight. Learning to end the sentence, to trust the pause, is an act of self-trust. It's an act of respect for the conversation itself. It's understanding that dialogue isn't a monologue stretched too long. It's a dance of offering and receiving, speaking and listening, giving and stepping back. Next time you find yourself in conversation, notice the urge to keep talking. Notice the fear that silence will somehow erase your presence. And then resist it. Say your truth, clearly, fully, and then allow the silence to hold it, like a precious stone placed gently into someone's hand. Because when you master this, when you learn to end the sentence with grace, you don't lose people's attention. You deepen it. You don't leave them empty. You leave them wanting more. And in the art of dialogue, that is a power greater than all the words you could ever say. 9. Be curious, like they're a hidden chapter. Every person you meet is a living story, unfolding in real time. Beneath the surface of the familiar greetings, the practiced smiles, and the carefully offered facts about their lives, there are whole worlds waiting to be discovered. Joys they rarely speak of, losses they carry quietly, dreams they barely dare to whisper even to themselves. But most conversations never touch these hidden chapters. They skim across the surface, exchanging facts like business cards. Where do you work? Where are you from? What do you do? And while these questions serve a purpose, they rarely open doors to something deeper. They don't invite the soul to step forward. If you want to become unforgettable in conversation, cultivate a genuine, burning curiosity about the people in front of you. Approach them not as a puzzle to be solved or a resume to be scanned, but as a living, breathing novel you can't wait to read. Let yourself wonder, what has shaped them? What are they carrying that no one else sees? What small victories or quiet sorrows have marked their journey? True curiosity is magnetic. When someone senses that you are not just waiting for your turn to speak, but are genuinely interested in who they are beyond the obvious, something changes. The guard drops. The conversation shifts from transaction to exploration. They begin to share more, not because you demand it, but because you invite it, with your presence, with your questions, with your open-hearted wonder. This kind of curiosity isn't about interrogation. It's not about drilling people for information or prying into their private lives. It's about creating a space so safe, so accepting, that they feel free to reveal the deeper layers of themselves, if they choose to. It's about asking questions that open doors, not walls. Questions like, what's been inspiring you lately? Or what's something you've learned recently that surprised you? Or simply, tell me more about that. And just as important as the questions you ask is the silence you offer after you ask them, the willingness to wait without rushing to fill the space. Because sometimes the most profound truths need a little silence to emerge. Curiosity is also about how you listen, not listening to reply, not listening to impress with your insight, but listening to understand, listening with your whole being, with your mind quiet and your heart open, ready to receive whatever gift the other person chooses to share. When you approach people with this kind of curiosity, you do more than have a good conversation. You create an experience. You offer them the rare and precious feeling of being seen, of being valued not for what they can offer you, not for how impressive they are, but simply for who they are, as they are, right now. And that experience, it stays with people long after the words have faded, long after the meeting has ended. They will remember how it felt to be seen by you. They will remember the way your curiosity made them feel alive, real, important, and they will want to come back to that feeling again and again. Because at the heart of every great conversation isn't just the exchange of words, it's the meeting of two worlds, two stories, in a space of mutual wonder. And when you treat every person you meet like a hidden chapter waiting to be read, you don't just change the conversation, you change lives, sometimes even your own. 10. Upgrade your inner dialogue. They can feel it. Long before you open your mouth to speak, you're already communicating. Through your posture, through your energy, through the invisible current of your self-belief or lack of it. Words are only part of the story. The deeper transmission happens through what you carry inside, and people, even if they can't explain it, feel it immediately. If you walk into a conversation with a quiet belief humming in the background, a belief that says, "I'm boring, I have nothing valuable to offer, people won't care about what I say," that energy leaks into everything, into the way your voice trails off, into the way your eyes dart away, into the hesitation between your sentences. It's not just your words they hear, it's your self-perception they sense. And even the most beautiful message gets lost when it's carried by doubt. But here's the good news. The opposite is also true. When your inner dialogue says, "I have something meaningful to share. My presence adds value here. I am enough just as I am," people feel that too. It doesn't come across as arrogance. It comes across as grounding, as ease, as a quiet invitation for others to relax into the space you're creating with your very being. This is why upgrading your outer dialogue, the way you speak to others, must begin with upgrading your inner dialogue, the way you speak to yourself. It's not about inflating yourself with empty affirmations or pretending to feel confident when you don't. It's about choosing a deeper, truer story. It's about recognizing that you, like every human being, have a well of experiences, insights, emotions, and perspectives that are utterly unique and utterly worthy of being shared. Your voice matters, not because it's perfect, not because it's the loudest, but because it carries the imprint of your lived experience, something no one else on earth can replicate. And when you truly believe that, when you let that belief settle into your bones, your presence shifts. Your words land differently. Your silences become richer, not heavier. Confidence doesn't mean speaking more. It doesn't mean dominating a conversation. It means speaking from a place of deep-rooted knowing, what I bring to this moment is enough. It means trusting that even if you don't have the cleverest thing to say, even if you stumble a little, even if you pause to find your words, the being behind the words is what people will connect with most. So if you want to transform the way you communicate with others, start by transforming the way you communicate with yourself. Catch the old, tired narratives when they surface. Notice when your mind whispers, "You're not interesting enough," and choose to answer it with a stronger voice. My presence is a gift. My words have weight. My story matters. Because the conversation you're always having, the one beneath all the others, is the one you have with yourself. And when you elevate that conversation, everything else rises with it. Speak from inner certainty. Speak from self-respect. Speak from the quiet power of knowing that you are enough, and that your voice, steady and real, has the power to touch more hearts than you can ever fully know. When we look back at the most meaningful conversations of our lives, we rarely remember the exact words that were said. What stays with us is the feeling, the warmth of being understood, the spark of a new idea, the rare, sacred sense of truly being seen without masks or defenses. These moments don't happen by accident. They happen when someone chooses to speak differently, to connect differently. Mastering the art of dialogue isn't about learning more tricks or techniques. It's about unlearning the need to perform, the fear of silence, the impulse to dominate or impress. It's about stepping into something far more vulnerable and far more powerful. A willingness to be real, a willingness to be curious, a willingness to tune so deeply into the moment that every word you offer carries the unmistakable weight of presence. Every conversation you have is an opportunity, not to shine in the eyes of others, but to awaken something within them, to remind them, even if just for a few minutes, that connection is still possible in a world that often feels too rushed, too distracted, too fractured to notice. You don't need to be the most eloquent speaker. You don't need to have the perfect stories, the cleverest questions, or the most magnetic voice. What you need is the courage to show up, fully, openly, attentively, to believe deeply that your attention matters, that your energy is felt, that every time you choose to bring your full self into a conversation, you are offering something rare, something beautiful, something unforgettable. So speak, not to impress, but to connect. Listen, not to reply, but to understand. Ask, not to fill space, but to invite depth. And carry within you the quiet knowing that your presence is, and always has been, enough. The art of speaking is, in the end, the art of seeing, the art of feeling, the art of being. And the world, tired, distracted, hungry for something real, is waiting for the sound of your voice.